as much as possible. I've got two gentlemen here with me. I have Patrick Kamilo, who is the president for Sports Stroke Fast Foundation, and he's also a nurse at Cath. And of course, I have my brother Henry here with me as well, who's also a health professional as well. And he's also a nurse at Cath as well. We're live on Facebook, so you could join us on Love 99.5 FM. When you join, make sure that you share the link among your friends, among your groups. Let's have a good time together. We're about to learn, so join us right now on Facebook Live, Love 99.5 FM. Big Mens, how are we doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Likewise, yeah.
Okay, feels good to have you in my studio still.
Same here.
I mean, but run us through your day. How's it been? Let me start from Patrick.
It's been well. Work, getting to interact with patients and their relatives, and getting to give them a lot of education on how they will stay fit. And here we are, fit check.
Definitely,
we all have to stay healthy.
Definitely,
So
very,
that's how
very,
the day
very
has
necessary.
been.
So it's just been work.
And
You've not even gone home?
I did go home.
Okay.
Just brief moment, and I'm out here. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Henry, how's the day been for you?
A little bit stressful, but okay. So, as Sports Stroke Fast Foundation, we put ourselves to educate people, and a privilege for us to be here. So, we have also been looking out for ways to have encounter with people. So, today we have been doing a lot of behind closed door for possibly something cooking is coming. So
Okay.
we are waiting.
That's really amazing. So let's get talking now. I'm sure Patrick is going to start. I don't know who's starting, but then I'm going to leave you guys to, talk about what you want us to talk about. So tonight we're discussing the silent killer, understanding the silent killer, which is hypertension. Why do you even say or term it as a silent killer? What informed, or I don't know if that's the news around that. Hypertension is a silent killer. You could tell me more about why you term it as a silent killer.
Anyway, thank you so much. I think I would like to say, good evening to Sports Stroke Fast Foundation, all the members, and everyone listening to us or watching us live on Facebook. So, silent killer. We term hypertension as a silent killer because most people don't even know they have hypertension or they have raised blood pressures. And, they just get struck with its complications. They'll be like, how come I didn't get to know of hypertension and now I'm here? So the signs and symptoms are just hidden. Most people with hypertension don't experience any obvious signs and symptoms, but then the complication comes out so clear, and they ask themselves a lot of questions. So it's because of the nature of the condition. It doesn't really inform you as to whether your BPs are high. As at now, our heart is working.
And you don't even know what's going on.
We don't know until you take steps to check your blood pressure. So that's why it's termed a silent killer. And as a foundation, Sports Stroke Fast Foundation, our goal is to get people educated. And once it is a silent killer, then it means that we can also be silent on something that kills silently.
Okay.
So we need to go out there and let people know that, yes, there's a condition called hypertension, and it deals with people silently. Just as a thief will break into your home, so silently, and pick up your valuables. That's what hypertension do to a lot of people.
Okay.
Because they are not aware of it, it tends to break homes, businesses, and disorganized family structure and stuff. So we are here to, make a lot of noise about it so people get to hear and they could stay healthy.
All right.
As Fit Check has been doing.
All right. So let's get to understand. The silent killer, which is hypertension. So, take us through.
When we talk about hypertension, but it's a medical condition. It's actually a serious medical condition, especially when it's not well controlled. So when we say hypertension, we mean that there is raised blood pressure. Now, as our heart beats, blood is pumped throughout our body through blood vessels called the arteries.
Okay.
Now, the blood moves with a certain force. Now, when the force increases beyond the threshold that the vessels could contain, then it means that the person is developing raised blood pressures or having a higher blood pressure, which could be termed as hypertension.
Okay.
So it's typically the force in which the blood flows through the blood vessels.
Okay.
When it's raised, then it means that the person has a high blood pressure.
Okay.
Or when it happens that the pressure is high, it means that the heart needs to work much harder because it flows, the heart beats, then blood flows. Then the pressure is generated or created due to the movement of the blood in the blood vessels. So that's what happens typically with hypertension. Is the force, when the force in which the blood flows is higher than normal, then we termed it as hypertension. So that's how it is.
Okay.
Now, if you have hypertension, we've already said that it's silent because most people don't know about it. And again, you look at dynamics, how would people even
get to know that I have hypertension?
You would only realize it when you check your blood pressure, typically.
So is there a range? When it comes to checking the blood pressure, is there a range? I don't know how it's done, but is there a range? Let's say if let's say the pressure is measured from 1 to 10, is it like maybe if your pressure is maybe above 5 or 6, that means you have hypertension.
Okay.
How do they get to go about it?
It's actually a progressive condition.
Okay.
When you check your blood pressure, when the readings appear on the machine, you get to see 2 numbers, one up and then one below. So the numerator is the systolic blood pressure. Then the denominator is the diastolic blood pressure. Now, we should have a range according to the WHO. If the systolic should be 120 or less, but if it's going below 90, then it's a worry. The diastolic is supposed to be a range of 60 to 80. If it goes beyond 90, 80 is a problem. If it's going below 60, that one too is a problem.
Okay.
But if someone is having persistently high blood pressures, like 140/90, more than 3 days, then it means that something needs to be done about it.
Okay.
So look at what is really causing. What can we do to?
But can it be the fact that maybe that's not hypertension, could be something else?
Once it's raised, we have the primary hypertension, then we have secondary hypertension. Yes, some people may have some conditions which could predispose them to having higher blood pressures, especially when the person has a kidney problem. The person could have, higher blood pressure. That is a secondary thing. It's a medical condition causing the person to have a blood pressure. But if you have primary hypertension, which is not related to any condition, but lifestyle related, then it means that everyone is at risk because our lifestyle is such that it puts us at a very tight corner of developing high blood pressures. So if the pressures become persistently high, then it means that we are likely to get complications as a result of having that high blood pressure.
So there's nothing like maybe a very main, let's say, symptom of high blood pressure. There's nothing like this could be a symptom of me having a high blood pressure.
So most often, those who would experience high blood pressures means that their BPs are way too high, more than 180. Those are having severe, they are in crisis. So they'll be experiencing some headaches, blurred vision. Sometimes they'll be complaining about palpitations. Their heart beats much faster. So these are the things that would show in people who have very serious high blood pressures in the course of the day. But if it's raising significantly, most often you wouldn't know until it gets to a point where it could lead to either the person getting a stroke. That one you'll be having severe headache, which our normal paracetamol may not be able to correct until you are able to reduce the blood pressure to an appreciable number, which could give the person some sort of life or breathing space to survive.
That's amazing. And like, what do you do? Is there any lifestyle that maybe could help manage or prevent these hypertensions? Maybe is there any lifestyle, something you should do to keep preventing them or manage it? That's if you have it.
A lot of them.
So you could touch on maybe preventing it and then maybe managing it afterwards.
So we do with the preventive, then we manage it when you have it. Now, one thing with hypertension in terms of its management is that it's a silent killer and it's not curable. It's a lifelong condition. So
it can never be dealt with.
No, it could only be managed such that the person will not develop any complication like a stroke, like having kidney disease or blindness or heart attack or cardiac, heart failure, So most people, when you talk about the management aspect, they tend to have some notion that, once they're on medications, then it should be able to cure it. So they tend to, default on their medication. They stop taking their medication for quite some time. And that poses a lot of challenge to them. Okay, so it is not curable, but it's manageable with lifestyle. Now, lifestyle, we would, talk about excessive intake of salt. Now most of our food have a lot of preservatives. Our homes, we do a lot of stuff with salt. So our salt intake poses a threat that if you take in a lot of salt, it means that your chance of having hypertension or your blood pressure raising significantly is also very high. So we need to limit our intake of salt. You may want to fry egg and you are using more than a teaspoon to fry your egg, something that is required for the whole day, So we should try and...
So, you're supposed to have 1 teaspoon of salt every day. That's if you're supposed to.
Yes, ideally, you shouldn't go beyond that.
Okay.
But, our lifestyle and the situation around suggests that you may be buying food elsewhere. You are not cooking your own meals and other stuff. So
but I don't know if this makes sense. Like, let's say you're home, you're making soup for the entire family. So our parents, the wives, and the ladies that make food. Even some of the men that we cook for our family and all of that. Let's say you're doing soup for the family. And since you mentioned 1 teaspoon a day, let's say in that soup I'm supposed to put like 2 or 3 because it's for a huge number of people. Doesn't mean that I've violated the amount of salt I'm supposed to. Because once it's mixed, then it's mixed. The 2 you put in is going to everyone's tummy.
So looking at the circumstance involved, we expect that you shouldn't take too much of it. So the goal here is that too much of everything is bad. We are not saying that it should be that static. But of course, if you are doing a family size meal, it means that the requirement may differ. You understand? But that should not be too high that, the little, if you tend to taste it, then everyone complains about salt. Then it means that you have problem with it. So, and then the preservatives also contains a lot of salt. So we only have to reduce our intake. These are conscious effort. It's not easy to, reduce some of these things because we've been doing it for quite a long time. But then, as we are preaching hypertension, and we know that if it could lead to having a raised blood pressure, then it means that we should start reducing it to a point where it wouldn't lead us to developing hypertension. That is one thing about the salt intake. Now, in our setting to look at alcohol intake among the youth is on the rise. A lot of people are now abusing alcohol, and the youth. When the young people are having hypertension, sometimes it's difficult to believe that, how can this young person having hypertension? And the person came in with high blood pressures. The person had a stroke because of the high blood pressure. You understand? And we are wondering what is causing it. Alcohol, we tend to abuse it a lot. Ideally, a meal, you could take at least 2 drinks per day per WHO standards. Or a female, take 1 drink a day. But we tend to drink more than what has the standard, because we are able to afford and it is available. So most of the youth these days are having higher blood pressures. And unfortunately, they don't check because they think that it's when you age that you have a higher chance of developing high blood pressure. So alcohol is also one of the lifestyle that we could modify. A lot of advertisements too is available that indicates that when you take the alcohol mixed with certain substances, you are able to have, nice time with your wife, your girlfriends, and other stuff. So, these are also fortified with certain drugs like aphrodisiac that a lot of young men are taking.
We want to go 1 hour and 1 year on a woman.
Exactly. And these has,
manpower.
Manpower. These have negative effects on the human heart, which, would lead to the person developing hypertension. And it's not a one-day show. It will also depend on the person's, innate risk factors. Okay. So if you have a family history of hypertension, your chances are that you could also develop hypertension if you don't modify your lifestyle. So there's a risk already because maybe dad has hypertension or mommy too is hypertensive. Now you are taking excessive alcohol. Now, this alcohol is also fortified with some aphrodisiac, and you are going to do some strenuous activities with it. It means that you would have a very high blood pressure, which could lead to stroke.
Okay.
And we've had, people come in like that, with having a stroke. They had hypertension. They took some of these substances. They had a stroke. Then we got to realize that things were still on, like in their pocket. You understand? So these are some of the modifications that we could all do to help us. Again, if you look at smoking situation in the country, now I don't, really see people smoking cigarettes like those days they used to. But technology has modified it to something that the youth think is more healthy and hygienic to take. Shisha. Among the youth, enter most of the pubs, it's so common that people smoke it. And they tend to believe that it's better off than.
That's a new flex.
It's a good option.
A good option for them.
It's a new flex, man.
You know one thing about shisha. When a puff of shisha is equivalent to someone consuming
100 sticks of cigar.
Just a puff, it's just one stick of cigar.
Okay.
And the session is around 20 minutes to about 80 minutes.
Wow.
So considering the time the person spent smoking it, it entitled will give you about 100 pieces of cigarette after finishing a session of shisha, which poses a threat to the youth.
Okay.
Because the smoke tends to harden the blood vessels. Already the nicotine in it and other stuffs are going to cause the heart to work much harder. The blood vessels are going to stiffen, and all these things will lead to hypertension.
Okay.
Now, hypertension is on the rise. We look at, the data available. Every 4 adults, one of them has a raised high blood pressure, which means that we're looking at the data we had, the population census, and you are doing the mathematics, you realize that almost 40% will be having hypertension. Unfortunately, most of them don't know their status. So there's a lot we could do in terms of lifestyle. If you have been diagnosed with hypertension, then it means that some of these lifestyles, you should be able to reduce it to a 0. Possibly that is when you are diagnosed. And I've said that one of the lifestyles you could modify to manage hypertension is to religiously, sticking to the medications without defaulting or listening to other people, nor sharing your medications with other people who tend to have hypertension. Sometimes, we like to share a lot.
So that means it's communicable?
Not communicable. I'm talking about the drug. You can't give the drug that works for me when I have hypertension may not work for you. So we don't advise that you take someone's medication because the person is hypertensive. That is a behavior that needs to be modified as well. It's part of the lifestyle that we need to pay attention to.
All right.
So that's
now you mentioned age, and I don't know. Is high blood pressure or hypertension something that affects just the aged?
No. The answer is just no. Everyone could have hypertension. Once your heart beats, it means that there's a certain force that pushes the blood to systemic circulation to supply other parts of the body. You understand? So you could have young people having a high blood pressure. You could have the elderly people having a high blood pressure. But then, statistically, or we should be seeing the elderly people having it, because it is known that once you are aging, then your risk of having high blood pressures are high because your blood vessels tend to stiffen. You have a lot of plaques deposited in the blood vessels and other stuff. So the elderly people, it's not really a surprise for them to have high blood pressure. But then they should be informed as to when they should inform such that they could modify their lifestyle, at least to suit their age, so that it won't just push them to developing hypertension at a very fast rate, which they may end defaulting and having complications like a stroke.
Okay. Like moving ahead with it, I would like to find out. Is it necessary I get my blood check? And if it's necessary, how often should I have my blood check?
It is 100% necessary. Even this is your studio. I expect that after this conversation, we should have a BP machine at the reception, so that everyone coming in to check their blood pressure and record it. If you have not been diagnosed of being hypertensive, then if you are even checking it, you are committed to checking it at least once a month and documenting it. You write it somewhere So that the following time you check, you compare to the previous one. Then it could give you an idea that, oh, maybe the BP is going up. So, hey, what do I need to do? You start with the lifestyle. Maybe these are the things I've done so far, and they could also lead to hypertension. Then let me try and lower it.
So ideally once a month.
That is if you are not diagnosed.
But for you, how many times would you like to get your blood checked?
I check it once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week.
So what would you advise the people listening to you right now to do?
They should get the machine first.
Okay.
Because one of the reasons why a lot of people are not checking is because they don't have the machine.
But I heard it's free at the pharmacies.
It's free. It could also depend the pharmacy you are entering.
Okay.
Some will take some few things in terms of wear and tear and stuff.
Okay.
But it's free. If you could check it daily, that's fine. If you could check it once a week, that's fine. If you could check it monthly, that's okay. But if you are hypertensive, if you've been diagnosed of having hypertension and you're on medication, then you must check it daily.
But don't you think there's a bit of a scare in town? Maybe people checking their blood pressures every time. Don't you think could bring a bit of a scare to the people?
Checking your blood pressure.
I mean, hey, I know I'm a check here. Maybe it's 100, and what will happen today? That kind of scare.
Isn't it better for you to know your problem than your problem?
But I thought you said this one can't be solved. So I mean, it's better if I don't know than going to know about it and not get it solved.
It can be solved. It means that, I mean, the complications are so that you have a stroke. I don't know whether you've seen someone having a stroke. Young people. Just this month, someone sent me a message that 34 years old man had a stroke, hemorrhagic stroke, because of hypertension. Because the person was not taking the drug, and then there is a rupture in the brain. The blood vessels got ruptured. Now the person bled in the brain and is suffering the complications. So you get to know it, then you manage it better. But if you have that fear that, oh, anytime I see the BP machine, then my heart start to beat quite faster and those things. It is not painful. It is just giving you, your status for you to know that, oh, maybe it's high or it is getting too low or maybe it's normal. Then we take it from there.
Okay.
So
now
that
still
fear should not be something that will scare people from, checking their blood pressure.
Right. Now, still talking about, getting it checked. Don't you think could fail sometimes? So, if you check, are you supposed to check just once? That is at the spot. Are you supposed to check it like 3 times, 2 times, or just once? And then every result that shows is what it is.
Okay.
Because sometimes we could have 40 machines.
Okay. Now, checking of blood pressure is a procedure on its own. For you to check it, it's a procedure on its own.
Okay.
And it must be checked right.
Okay.
It must be checked accurately for you to get the accurate results and work with it. Now, the size, like the machine when you buy it, wherever you are buying it from, the personnel there should be able to educate you on how to use the device.
All right.
Because it's not something that you have it available at home. It's something that is part of the medical supplies. So they should guide you to how to use it. Okay. So when you buy the machine, the size, of the cuff, the glove, the thing you are wrapping around your arm, also could have influence on the person's blood pressure, especially when it is too tight on the person. It could give, significantly high blood pressures. And see, one thing you shouldn't do is wrapping that cuff on when you are wearing a shirt, then you put it on it. You are going to get false, readings, Now, the tubings too should be placed on a certain artery called the brachial artery.
Okay.
So if I stretch this way, there's an artery that I feel here. Then I apply it, then the tube will be in line with the artery.
Okay.
You understand? And you shouldn't tie it such that it will cover the entire space. The elbow should cover it. No, it should go a bit up from the space here, at least 2 inches up. So that's where you apply it.
All right.
Then the battery too should be a problem. You wouldn't be buy the machine and using one battery for over a year. No, you need to change it. At least when you check 3 times, you should be able to change it and use a different battery so you could get accurate readings. So the checking of it alone is a whole procedure that you need to learn. So if you learn it well and you're able to check accurately, when it's going up, you know that, oh, this time it's going up, then what should I do about it? Now, if you walk briskly and you get to the house and you want to check your BPs, no, it's not advisable. You need to at least rest for about 5 minutes before you can continue.
Okay.
You can check it up. if you take in any caffeinated beverages or you smoke,
Don't go
you have
close
to
to it.
wait for at least 30 to 45 minutes
Right.
before you can check. Because it's believed that after 30 to 45 minutes, your BP tends to normalize, even if you have eaten or taken a carbonated beverage. Then you could check your blood pressures.
Okay, we're live on Facebook, Love 99.5 FM. I would like us to talk about medications. Yeah, is there any medication that could help lower these high blood pressures we're talking about? Is there anything like medication that could lower it? I mean, could lower the pressure. Say pressure, so I mean, there should be a way to lower the pressure.
There are.
Okay.
So, like we said, it's not curable, but then it can be managed.
Okay.
So we have the medical management, and sometimes it goes along with, not sometimes, mostly, it goes along with the lifestyle modification. So
Okay.
as you do what he said, sometimes we educate all right, but the listener getting a concept is also an issue. So if you tell someone, exercise, what do you mean by exercise? Probably you are diagnosed with hypertension. Then you try to jog around, run like an athlete. It doesn't help. You understand? So you just engage yourself in any passive exercise. Make sure you have enough sleep. Also get very well hydrated. And also, like he said, let your drug be your friend. Like, religiously, take your drug, don't default. So there are many medications for that, but you should not also share your medicine, like you said.
Okay.
Because probably what might work for you
Might not work for me.
exactly. It's not malaria where every malaria is anti-malaria. So if I'm having malaria, I can just take any malaria drugs. It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
So there are-
Let's get to the phone lines right now. Maybe someone's listening. You have an experience you want to share with us, or you have a question for our gentleman here. You can just come through. Phone lines are activated right now. 03220-83596, 03220-83597. Of course, 03220-83597. Good evening going out to Chief of Nyames Kitchen. You're listening to me now. But good evening going out to everybody doing listening there as well. Of course, this one says, hello, good evening. Of course, the most listened to late night show. I'm tuning in from Siaboa IPT, and it's coming from XI Media. Thank you very much for tuning into the show, my brother. Phone lines are activated. You can still come through right now on 03220-83596, 03220-83597, and of course 03220-83598. Hello.
Hello, Nat.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Nathaniel. This is SK.
SK, okay, sure. SK, talk to me.
Yes, please. What I'm more particular about in terms of this discussion is the risk factors and how we can lower our risk of getting our blood pressure high. In terms of our lifestyle, what particularly should we be doing? He talked about our salt intake. Is that all? Are there other foods that when we eat, it increases our chances of getting hypertensive?
So you are actually asking about the food. I mean the diet, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. They will answer it very shortly for you. Thank you for coming through. All right, Doc.
Okay. So talking about food, one, we should know that when you take in saturated fat, especially animal fat, a lot of these cholesterols tend to build up in the blood vessels, and then you could have a higher blood pressures. So when you are taking a lot of fatty food, you should advise yourself that hey, it could lead you to, having hypertension and then getting a complication out of that. So fat intake. And then we advise that we should increase our vegetables and fruit intake as well.
Okay.
And then limit the fatty product. That is one way of attending to the food issues. So salt, cholesterol, high cholesterol intake, and then a lot of junk foods. It has salt, it has these preservatives, and again, the oil in our food is so much these days that could also cause us to have having high blood pressures.
Okay. You can still come through 0322083596. I'm going to pick 2 more calls and then we call it wraps here on the conversation. But before that, we'll talk about your foundation. I would like to know when did it all come about? Sports Stroke Fast Foundation. When did it all come about? I don't know. Any of you could just take it.
Mr. President will take it.
All right, sure.
All right. So Sports Stroke Fast Foundation is...
We have a caller, so let's talk to the caller first. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Who am I talking to?
This is Mensah.
Nessa, you don't sound fine. What's wrong with you?
I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Or you're locked down somewhere?
No.
Okay. I'm in Kawangware. But tell me, doctor is here. Talk to them. All right.
Please. Is hypertension transfer? I would like. Can it be transferred from a parent to the offspring?
That's the question, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's keep listening. They are answering that for you right now.
Okay. So it's a non-communicable disease. Okay. Now, when your parents have hypertension, now the chances are that the offspring could have hypertension.
How?
That is
Genetic.
when if it's genetic related, it's a non-modifiable risk factor. You can't do much about it. The only thing you could do to reduce your risk of having it is to understand the lifestyle modifications and work towards it. So
does it mean that the lifestyle, you going according to the lifestyle modifications can help save the baby from getting it?
Yes.
Wow.
So
this is even more scary. I see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so you understand it that way.
Wow.
Then you work towards it's modifiable and non-modifiable ones.
Okay.
The non-modifiable ones, age is one of them.
Okay.
Genetic is one of them. You understand? And then the modifiable ones, they are a lot. Okay. So we've mentioned them already. But it's not contagious. Just like COVID came in and then everyone was having COVID. No, that's not how hypertension is.
Okay.
But then it is believed that it
As
runs
for
through
genetic,
it's genetic,
could
it has
happen.
genetic connotations.
But not communicable
But
in
it's
the
not
community.
communicable.
All right.
So that's how it is.
All right. We're still picking our last call. You were talking about the foundation. You can still go ahead. 0322083596, 0322083597, and of course 0322083598. So let's get.
Yeah. So it's a nurse-led.
We have a caller. Okay, sure. Hello.
Yeah, Nathaniel.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Okay, this SK again.
Okay, SK.
My question was partly answered, but in answering my question, he mentioned saturated and unsaturated oils. The layman doesn't get it.
Okay.
What's the difference? How can you tell this oil is saturated, contains saturated fat, and this other one contains unsaturated? You should break it down. And what about the oils?
Okay.
Like, by what mechanism does it get us to have our blood pressure high? I want to understand. You should break it down so that the layman can get it, so that we will know exactly what to do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's a very good thing. I think we need to rectify.
So
this
in
one.
just 1 minute, you could just wrap that one
yes,
up for
so
us.
when you talk about the saturated fat,
Okay.
we mean that oil that solidify at room temperature. Now, if you look at sunflower, that's not to say I'm marketing their product, but if you look at sunflower, even if you put it in the refrigerator, it doesn't solidify.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you should take it so much.
Okay.
But those that solidify easily, they are
like
the
margarine?
saturated, yes. They are the saturated fat. You understand? And then the unsaturated ones are those that do not easily solidify.
Okay.
But in as much as they don't solidify, this one solidifies, you don't need to take it so much. What happens with that? It deposits in the blood vessels and it reduces the size or the lumen, the spacing where the blood could have flown through. It reduces it. And once it reduces, just like the water hose we use at home, when you step on it, you realize there's this force that pushes the water out of it. So that's what happens to the blood vessel. When the fat, deposits in it, in the blood vessel, it reduces the size of it. it means that the heart will need to work much harder to push the required volume of blood needed for that part to function. So that's what happened. And then as it continues, it could even block the entire blood vessel. It could lead to other conditions. You know? So the fact is not just only the hypertension that the person could get, but then it could lead to other, conditions which could be vascular.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's talk about Sports Stroke Fast
Sports
Foundation.
Stroke Fast Foundation is a nurse-led organization. When I say nurse-led, most of the members are nurses. There's a few doctors and dietitians and physiotherapists. Now, the reason for forming this organization,
most of us, an NGO, right?
Yes, it's an NGO. Most of us worked at the stroke unit at Confirmation Teaching Hospital. We realized that the youth were coming in with strokes. And we know stroke to be predominantly among the elderly people. But here's the case, the youth are having it. So we ask ourselves, what? Then if that's the case, then you ask them questions, they don't know about stroke because people don't talk about it. But meanwhile, it's a real condition that's affecting a lot of people. In my directorate, for instance, just last year, the data we gathered shows that stroke was the first cause of admission and the first cause of death in my directorate. Which means that it's surpassing most of the conditions that we've heard of. So what can we do? Should we be sitting at the hospital waiting for people to come in with a largely preventable condition like a stroke? The answer obviously is no. So we thought that we also have community service to do. What can we do best? We can only do a lot of advocacy, a lot of campaign, creating awareness, talking about various conditions, the risk factors, letting people know that if you don't do A, B, C, D, you could get a stroke. And when you get a stroke, that family structure and other stuff that we're talking about could come up, So that's what happened, and then we formed this organization to create awareness that stroke is real. Stroke kills a lot of people. People tend to talk about breast cancer, but stroke kills twice. Let's say more than breast cancer will kill the females. But when it comes to breast cancer awareness creation, all of us will join the train and then we just campaign for them. But the same October as World Stroke Day, which is 29th October, but we don't get to hear about it. Only few people talks about it. So that is why we formed this organization to also help people understand that, hey, stroke is real. And if my directorate is having stroke at the first cause of admission, then ask yourself, how come? Because you know of maybe diabetes, you know of hypertension, you know of these tumors, these breast cancers, it's been the last cause of admission in the hospital. You understand? Not to even talk about other disabilities. And stroke is causing a lot of disability. That's actually, the number one cause of adult death and disability worldwide. So, Sports Stroke Fast Foundation, our goal is to educate people on stroke preventive measures and also give support to those who have had a stroke.
So by far, how many people have you helped? People living with stroke or people that have been diagnosed with stroke?
Can't count them.
How long have you been in existence?
For me, or the stroke?
The foundation.
The foundation has been 5 years now. This year, it's 5 years now. But then we can't quantify the number of people who have had a stroke because some of them don't come to the hospital. You only get to hear about it. But last year, for instance, those who had stroke and came there, so a little over 1,000 people came in with a stroke. About 300 of them died of stroke at the hospital. Whatever happened to them at home, most often we don't get to hear until we are making our follow-up calls. Then after 3 months, about 50% is gone already. So we thought that, since it's largely preventable, then let's go out there, let's do the education, let's do some screenings, free health screenings, get people checked. Maybe some of them may be working with high BPs. Just last week Sunday, we had the privilege to screen some people at Ahojo area, and a certain woman was working with a BP of 231.20.
Wow!
And we had to just admit her. In fact, her insurance too had expired, so we had to renew it there for her and get her admitted for about 24 hours before. We left her to go, but now she's on medications and the BPs are now okay. So that's what we have been doing, and we don't do it only in Kumasi here. We've done similar thing in Navrongo, we do it in Tamale, and we are trying to go almost everywhere in the country so that people will get to know that, hey, there's a lot we could do to stay healthy. And Fit Check, you are doing a wonderful job. I know that a lot of people have heard what we have done. The time may not be enough to talk about everything, but we are open. You could call us anytime You could follow us on Facebook, Sports Stroke Fast Foundation. I mean, Instagram, you could find us there. Our website is sportstrokefastgh.com. You could get our contacts there. Just send us an email, whatever you want. Invite us to your church, wherever, your workplace. We will come, do the screening for you, do the education for you. Ask all your questions. We have a lot of experts available to answer your questions. Maybe if you are not able to, maybe I'm not able to explain it today, doesn't mean that you can't get answer to it. We will still refer till you get satisfied with whichever responses that you need from us. So that's what we have been doing over the years. And I mean, someone will say it's out of pocket. I mean,
God will definitely put it back in there, yeah. So, but you guys are really doing an amazing job. Thank you very much. I must say, I checked your website before the show, and I mean, you guys are doing amazing. And thank you very much. Henry, I'll take your last words, and I'll go back to Patrick again, and then see.
Okay, so
maybe anyone you want to greet, anything you would want to say to the listeners as well.
Okay, so I'll greet my family.
Okay.
My mom, probably she's sleeping or watching.
Okay.
But then one thing that really concerns me is the youth and the abuse and the way they abuse alcohol. So probably you heard him say that for a lady you can take a bottle of alcohol, for a guy you can take two. So let's say in the whole week I don't take. So when I sit down on a Friday night, can I come back all the two that I was supposed to take?
I asked this question when Ohineba came on the show. I really asked this question.
When if I'm supposed to take two every day and I've skipped for 6 days, can I take all the two in one? No. Stroke will not hit you, or you'll not get any issue right there. But eventually, it might await you. So just be responsible. That's all.
Thank you very much. Your last words there.
Yeah. So like I said, we are open. Call us. We are available for you. We need to get the information going. We need everyone to understand what it takes to stay fit, you know. So we are available. So I'll say a very big thank you to all our supporters, especially the Sports Stroke Fast Foundation members, all our listeners. I said I was going to say shout out to one of our listeners. She's Priscilla, and I'm sure she's enjoying the show. So, and then my family, of course, Kamilo family.
You already didn't greet the lady you came. You came with a very beautiful lady. You didn't say hello to her.
I've not even ended. So at least I'll give a summary of everything. Hi. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much so much. But let me read these Facebook comments quickly. Akriamwa the second says SSFF doing the most World Stroke Awareness, World Stroke Organization, Stroke World, Sports Stroke Fast Foundation. And Abaz Yakubu says, great job, Senior Patrick. And Grace Adu says, I'm really learning. Thank you, guys. So that'll be it for our Fake Check segment tonight here on Vibes on Love. You're still listening to us. We're here till 12 midnight. You know how we do. We're about to have the best of time. So please don't go anywhere. Keep listening to the show. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for having us here as well. All right.
You are listening to Nathaniel Mensah.